Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back, one and all. I'm Adam the Fanatic, and today we're taking a look at Dice Manor, a bidding-driven dice manipulation game by Arcane Wonders. While you may be familiar with the game already, it's important to note that Arcane Wonders has recently released an official 2-player supplement. We'll be taking a look at that as well as the original 3 to 4 player rules. Without any further ado, let's dive in! In Dice Manor, 2 to 4 players will be competing to construct the most extravagant manor possible. The game consists of 4 standard rounds, followed by a grand opening round. At the end of the game, each player will count up bonuses, and whoever has the highest prestige is the winner. To set up, begin by sliding the prestige board into the project board. Take the gray house and place it on the first round at the top of the tracker. Take the 6 sets of room tiles and separate them by type, placing them face down and shuffling them up. Deal out 1 of each type to its spot on the project board. Along the bottom we have offices, bathrooms, and small bedrooms. Then along the top we have large bedrooms, kitchens and dining rooms, and libraries. After that, each player will need to take their components. They should each have 9 dice, a prestige marker, an advertising marker, and a foyer of their player color. Each player should also take 2 inspiration tokens and a reference card. Place your advertising marker on the leftmost space of the track and put 2 of your dice on the rightmost spaces of the track. Keep the rest of your dice near you. You'll also want to place your prestige marker on the 0 space that matches your color. After all players have set up, choose a player to begin the first round and give them the first player marker. And with that, you're ready to begin. As aforementioned, there are 4 standard rounds in Dice Manor. Each of these consists of 4 phases, beginning with the bid phase. Starting with the first player, each player will roll all of their dice, then separate them by number. So in this case, we have 2 1s, 3 3s, a 4, and a 5. If you don't like a roll, you can spend inspiration tokens to change it. They're double-sided to remind you that they can be used in 2 different ways. Firstly, you may change the value of a single die by 1, increasing or decreasing it. And it's important to note that 1 and 6 loop around in clockwork fashion. Alternatively, you may take a reroll, taking any number of dice you dislike and hoping for better results. So long as you have inspiration tokens remaining, you may continue to spend them as many times as you like on a single roll. After players decide to stop using inspiration tokens, they choose one of the numbers showing and must use all dice of the matching number. So in this case, if Teal chose 1, they must use both 1s, but if they choose 4 or 5, they'll only place 1 die on this turn. There are 3 ways you can spend dice during the bidding phase. To bid on blueprints, you must use dice that match the number of the room in question. So this player could choose to spend 2 dice to bid on the current office, or 3 dice on the current small bedroom. If another player already has a bid somewhere, bids will be lined up by the number of dice bid upon it, with the lead bidder placed closest to the tile. If there's a tie, the earlier bid takes precedence. The second option for bidding is advertising. If you've not yet bid on advertising this round, then you may use dice of any value to advertise. If you've already placed advertising dice, then you must match the value of the dice you previously used. As before, the number of dice is most important. However, value is used to break ties, so a pair of 5s will beat a pair of 3s. If players have the same number and value of dice, then once again, the earlier bid will take precedence. The third option for bidding is to perform an early tour of your manor. While touring the foyer is a valid tactic, especially with your last die of the first round, we'll explain this in detail later. You may use dice to bid on multiple options during the bid phase, but you may only use a single value of dice when doing so. So if you had 4 6s, you could place 2 on advertising and 2 on the library if you'd like. But you cannot put 2 4s on advertising and 2 6s on the library, since those are different values. After a player is done bidding, play will continue clockwise. When it comes back to you, you'll re-roll all of your remaining dice, choose a number, and once again bid with all dice of that number. Play will continue like this until all players have bid all their dice, at which point the bidding phase for that round is over and the collect phase begins. For each blueprint, the player that bid the most dice will collect the tile in question. However, for every room that you bid at least 1 die on and did not win, you'll take an inspiration token as a consolation prize. If there are any blueprints that had no bids, simply discard them and remove them until the end of the game. Once all blueprints have been resolved, you'll move on to advertising. The player in first place will advance their advertising marker 2 spaces and collects prestige for both the house that they passed over and the one that they landed on, so 6 points in total here. Similarly, the player in second advances their marker 1 space and collects the 3 points printed on it. Third and fourth place will each collect an inspiration token, but only if they bid at least 1 die. After that, all players will move their nearest bonus die a number of spaces equal to the number of dice they used in bidding. If a bonus die ever reaches the advertising marker, that player will take the die and add it to their dice pool to be rolled in all future rounds. They may then begin moving their second bonus die in the same manner. To finish the collect phase, remove all dice from your manor and collect 1 prestige die for each one that was there. Again, we'll touch on how to place dice in your manor in a moment. Once players have collected the prizes from the bids that they've won, it's time for the build phase. You can arrange the blueprints you won in almost any way you like, with only a few exceptions. Firstly, you may rotate them as you see fit when placing them, and must not have any doors touching any walls. Secondly, note the entryway on the foyer tile. It cannot be used to connect to another room. Rich people may be eccentric, but they still need a way to get in. And finally, you may not rearrange your manor between rounds. Once you place a blueprint tile, it remains there until the end of the game. After all players have placed their rooms, you'll move on to the reset phase. You'll deal out 6 new blueprint tiles, pass the first player marker clockwise, and then move the round tracker down 1 space. The new first player rolls their dice and begins as before, but from the second round onwards, the prospect of performing an early tour becomes much more enticing. When performing a tour of your manor, the standard rules for bidding apply, meaning that you can only use dice of a single value each turn. You must start the first tour each round in the foyer, so for this example, let's assume that the player rolled 4 3s on their first turn of the 4th round. Instead of bidding on blueprints or advertising, they decide to get some early bonus points by placing them in adjacent rooms. Rooms with a question mark can accept dice of any value, while other rooms must match the value of the die being placed there. In this case, the player will immediately gain 9 prestige points for a single tour of 4 rooms. On a later turn, they roll a pair of 4s and want to place them. They can place in any rooms connected to those already toured. However, since these 2 rooms are not connected themselves, they will count as 2 separate tours, giving them an inspiration token for each one. Do note that, although they are a single tile, kitchens and dining rooms count as 2 separate rooms for all intents and purposes after being placed within your manor. This will be important both when performing tours and when we get to endgame bonuses. Once all 4 standard rounds have ended, players will advance to the grand opening. At this point, you'll roll dice as normal, but the only action you can take with those dice is to perform a tour. All previous rules for placing dice and scoring tours apply. However, if you are unable to place any guests, you must instead choose a number and remove matching dice as unhappy guests who will not give you any prestige. Players may perform their grand opening simultaneously if they wish, and may use prestige tokens as normal during this round. Once all players have placed their dice, they'll gain an additional 3 points for every die placed. But be sure not to move your manor or the dice, as they may be used for bonus points and tie breaking. At the end of the game, there are 4 sources of bonus points. Firstly, for every 2 inspiration tokens you have left, you'll gain 1 prestige rounded down. This means that if you can score even 1 prestige from an inspiration token, it's better to spend it rather than save it, especially during the grand opening. Secondly, players will check to see how many different room types there are in their manor, not counting their foyer. If they manage to have all 6 different types of rooms, they'll score a bonus of 15 points, with lesser bonuses for having 4 or 5 different types of rooms. After that, it's time to check for the largest manor and color majority bonuses. For the largest manor, each player simply counts up the number of rooms within their manor, again not counting the foyer. Whomever has the most rooms will score 12 points, and whoever has the second most will score 6. In case of a tie for first, tied players will each receive 8 points, and no one will score for second. Similarly, ties for second will score 4 points each. You'll then check colors one at a time and give the same bonuses to the players that have the most of each color of room: red, blue, green, and yellow. However, you may have already noticed these purple rooms. These are magic rooms which count as the colors of any rooms they're connected to, allowing them to count as 2 different colors at the same time. Bear in mind that your foyer does not count towards any of these colors, so you generally want to avoid connecting a purple room to it. After all bonus points have been tallied up, the player with the highest score is the winner. In the case of a tie, the player with the largest manor will eke out a victory. But as aforementioned, Arcane Wonders has recently published 2-player rules to add to the game. When playing with 2 players, take a 3rd set of dice and use it as a dummy player. The dummy player does not need any of the other components. At the start of each round, roll one of the dummy player's dice and place it as a bid on the advertising track. After both players have taken a turn, the dummy player will roll another die. If it matches their advertising die, they'll add it there. Otherwise, they'll simply place it on the matching blueprint. Once both players have used all their dice, the bidding phase ends immediately. Do not roll any more dice for the dummy player at that point. During the collect phase, the dummy player will take any blueprints it won, but does not need to do anything else. When you get to the final scoring, the dummy player will compete to steal bonuses for the largest manor and color majority, although its purple rooms will not count as any color for these purposes since it never actually sets them up. It doesn't get a score of its own, but it can block a player from taking color majorities. Aside from this, all rules for 2 players are identical to standard play. Component-wise, the game is quite good. Firstly, I have to praise Arcane Wonders for making an insert that does a pretty good job of keeping all the pieces ready for future plays. It keeps all of your tiles organized and ready to set up to a satisfactory degree, although I should warn that it isn't tight enough for those that want to store your boxes vertically. Onto the actual components, the dice are fairly standard D6s with numerals rather than pips. They're of ordinary size and weight, nothing much to speak of here. Cardboard tokens are of decent thickness, and you can clearly tell what everything is. Prestige board is dual layered so that cubes lock into their spaces, though I do feel that it's a little tight when you slide it into the project board. Finally, on the note of artwork, all of the rooms look nice, with different colors each having a unique theme to differentiate them from one another. All in all, Dice Manor is a fun, lightweight title that makes a great gateway game. The bidding mechanics make for some interesting decisions, while the inspiration tokens act both as a catch-up mechanism and a way to reduce the randomness of your rolls, although you're still forced to consider how best to use what you've been given. The opportunities to go for bonus dice or to devote more dice to early tours really opens up some very different strategies. Upon release, a lot of players did complain that the 2-player version didn't have much tension in the bidding. The dummy player does a good job of alleviating this and made sure that things were exciting in games between myself and one other player at a time. All in all, I find Dice Manor to be a good game that sits just on the border between family weight and gateway games, worth a solid 7.7 out of 10. If you're interested in purchasing Dice Manor, as always, my first suggestion is to check with your friendly local game store to see if they keep it in stock. If you can't find it, want to download the 2-player rules, or simply wish to learn more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of Dice Manor? What dice manipulation games do you enjoy? Have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view? Leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.